Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We have the pleasure of having a really interesting presentation today that's going to be shared with us around the growing cannabis market. This is going to be led by Brian Loeb and Henrique Savelsberg, who are wonderful, wonderful researchers and people we know well. And this is the next in the series of the QRCA international chapter webinar series. So this is the stuff that the Americans don't get to see, well, at least not on their time zone live. This is for the international gang who are joining in, having a look. And today we are presenting the study. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Henrik, who's going to kick us off.
Yeah, thanks very much for the introduction, Dave. Let me just open the presentation. So I'm Henrique, a QRCA member, Dutch native. I am focused on international qualitative research with a specific focus on the Netherlands and Belgium for Europe and the Southeast Asia region. I conducted this study together with Brian, also QRCA member. Brian, can you introduce yourself shortly?
Sure. I'm originally from California, but I've lived in Spain for almost 25 years. And I have over 30 years of experience doing market research and user experience research across many sectors and across the English and Spanish speaking worlds.
So thanks, Brian. Yeah, we conducted this study together with the local Thai researcher, Nana. And the research is called "What Do They Think About Cannabis?" A deep dive into the feelings and opinions of consumers from the Netherlands, Spain, and Thailand. Brian will start by giving a short overview of the global cannabis market.
Yeah, we included some desk research into the project. And it's interesting that if you think back 10 years ago, it was illegal almost everywhere. And now it's like at least partially legal in many places. And this has fueled a lot of growth. We've seen growth both from the illegal markets becoming legal, and then also the legalization leading to more mainstream applications, from skin cream to food and bev, vaping products, and even pet food. And it's projected to continue growing from $58 billion US dollars to $82 billion in the next 3 to 4 years. And if you look to the right, the next 10 years, it's projected by at least one company to reach 247 billion. So obviously this growth brings with it opportunities for market researchers and strategists like us, and which we'll talk about a bit at the end.
So for our study, to give a bit of background, so in the Netherlands, there has been a cannabis toleration policy since 1976, which means consumers can possess up to 5 grams of marijuana or maximum 5 cannabis plants. And coffee shops, they can sell small quantities of cannabis without being prosecuted. Currently in the Netherlands, there's the experiment-controlled cannabis supply chain. And in this experiment, there are 10 cannabis growers have been selected. And these 10 selected growers, their cannabis is audited by the Dutch government, and they will supply to 10 participating municipalities in the Netherlands, which are around 80 coffee shops. And this experiment is to better monitor the quality of cannabis and to have a full across more towards a full legal cannabis of supply chain of cannabis.
So in Spain, the use in private and in cannabis clubs was decriminalized, not totally made legal, but at least decriminalized in 2015. And but its use in public, especially, is still subject to penalties, and medicinal use is highly restricted. On the other hand, CBD products are legal. But they do have a series of restrictions, such as they can't be ingested directly. So, for example, we don't see CBD gummies here in Spain.
In Thailand, cannabis was strictly forbidden. If you would have just a small quantity of cannabis, this would mostly lead to imprisonment. And then suddenly in June 2022, the market was decriminalized. And since then, cannabis is sold all over the country. There are thousands of dispensaries. And for now, policy and rules are not clearly set, and uncontrolled sales of cannabis for recreational use takes place, because originally it was set up for medical usage, but then it was just sold all over. And in the beginning of this year, there was a discussion to put even cannabis back on the narcotics list. But then in August this year, the prime minister was removed and there was a new prime minister put in place. And this new prime minister drafted a bill. And in this latest bill is stated to reclassify cannabis, to not reclassify cannabis as a narcotic. And also there's no explicit clause that outlaws recreational usage. So for our study, to give a bit further information, the methodology, we started with some desk research to get to know the Thailand, Netherlands, and Spain market. Then we did some store observations of dispensaries, smoking club, but also the health stores and the drug stores, the pharmacies, some pharmacies that sell cannabidiol CBD products. For the interviews in the Netherlands, we conducted 17 interviews. I already conducted this study last year, whereby I included Netherlands and Thailand, and then presented that at London Quirk Conference. And then this year we extended it with Spain, and Brian managed the Spain part. 10 interviews were conducted in Spain and 16 in Thailand over the 2 years. Then we also had a quantitative part leg of this study, which was an online survey, whereby we collected 100 responses per market. This was managed by Research Clever, that had access to a global network through API integration. And for the recruitment of the online qualitative interviews, we mostly recruited through our own network, and also through social media. Through social media, I mean here to say, like for the Netherlands, I put some posts in Facebook groups of natural medicine and cannabidiol. In Thailand, was also recruited through our own network, but also just on the street recruitment of getting some participants. Those that have heard, we recruited those that have heard of cannabis, preferably also cannabidiol, but not necessarily users of cannabis products. We also conducted a few B2B interviews for this study, such as with the Drugs Research Institute, the cannabis CBD retailer, seed trader, some dispensaries, pharmacy, health stores, and a smoking club owner in Spain. For the online survey, as I said, we collected 100 responses per market. The spread was equal between male and female. We also had a good spread of different ages, but the age data was also re-rated by the age statistics for each market. And we targeted 16 plus for this study. And yeah, almost around on average 60% of our respondents, they answered yes to the question if they have children. Then the first topic we started with the qualitative interview was what do you know about cannabis, and what is your perception, and what would be appropriate regulations? For the Netherlands, the respondents all said, yeah, we know cannabis is tolerated. We know cannabis is used for recreational and or medical usage. One respondent you see here, quote, was a lady in the age category 26 to 40 years old. She said, my parents were from the generation that all drugs are bad. I'm from the generation that everyone from my age has smoked a joint or has come in contact with it. Then there were several respondents. They said, that they found the regulations in the Netherlands actually quite dubious, because the cannabis supply to the coffee shops is illegal, but its sale from the coffee shops is tolerated. Also, respondents said, well, cannabis, alcohol, and tobacco, I think it should go together in the same path of regulatory framework. Then a few respondents know about the current experiment-controlled supply chain that is managed by the Dutch government that I explained in the beginning of the presentation. One respondent in the age category 50 plus, he said, I think this experiment is mostly focused on getting the VAT income from growers and then the coffee shops. Advantage of this experiment is that with state weed, you can guarantee a certain quality.
Yeah, so in Spain, there's a big difference between CBD products, which are known to be completely legal. They're sold, they have storefronts, their products are displayed openly. I live in a part of Madrid where there's a lot of CBD shops, and you can see there's a lot of activity. They're always fairly busy. Looks like they're doing a pretty brisk business. You can see there's a lot of different products. There's CBD blunts, flowers, vaping products. There's even alcohol and cosmetics. If you can also see that they're sold online, and Pro Pharma is just an online pharmacy. But if you search for CBD, you get 1,410 results. On the other hand, yeah, the smoking clubs are a different story. They exist kind of in a legal vacuum. There are laws that prohibit THC products. But on the other hand, the smoking clubs operate as registered associations where at least the sale of THC products is tolerated. So this one woman says, I know this is reflected in the consumer perceptions. She says that legally it cannot be transported or cultivated or consumed or anything. But there are smoking clubs, and I don't know under what law they are allowed to exist. And this is actually confirmed by the owner of the smoking club, who first of all, he relies completely on his lawyer to manage the legal part, because he doesn't really have a grasp of it. And on the other hand, he did have expectations for it to become more fully legalized quicker. So, and I think this is a problem we see in many markets where big brands and established companies won't get into it because the regulations aren't quite clear yet. In general, people do avoid public consumption and possession as they fear the possibility of being fined. And even some, like this man, thinks it's kind of a deliberate trap, and it's kept unclear on purpose so that they can collect money through fines.
In Thailand, when I asked, what do you know about cannabis? Many answered that the cannabis regulation is not clear. It's not clear what the products stand for and what is allowed or not. Many answered, they said they see its use for recreational medical usage. And cannabis is trendy, as it was only decriminalized in June 2022. It's a new thing that some people like to try. But now we are in 2024, and the trendiness is slowing a bit down. Here on the right of it, you see a picture. I write the translation under it in English. This foodlet is cannabis free. You see now an increasing number of outlets. This is a food outlet where they put a sign that they don't appreciate, it's not allowed to smoke cannabis on the premise. Then there's increasing also restricted promotion rules on CBD and cannabis in Thailand and on the social media in Thailand. A CBD retailer we interviewed said on social media it is restricted to promote CBD. For example, for TikTok, if you just mention CBD or cannabis, your entire account gets blocked. We promote mostly through direct events to our target audience. Then the different respondents also said they would like to have more strict regulations and police enforcement on that the consumers follow up on these regulations. Hereby, they said more regulation on driving and cannabis usage, or that are smoking clubs that allow cannabis usage varying by the weight, gender, or age of the user. Not allowed to stricter following that people don't consume cannabis in public spaces, which is not allowed. Growers that would register with government and can grow in dedicated areas monitored by government, regulation on maximum cannabis content in products, warning on products like with cigarettes, or they also said similar to alcohol and cigarette legislation with ID check and store certified by government. Otherwise, on the slide here, you see on the left, you see some dispensaries. You see really focus on medical marijuana that is marketed like that. And on the right, you see different cannabidiol products in Thailand. So we asked them, what do you think are the most appropriate channels to inform about cannabis news and regulations? In the Netherlands, the consumers we interviewed, they are more aligned. They say the NOS, which is a Dutch broadcasting foundation, the NOS National News, national newspapers, offline or online, and online also the Dutch news website nu.nl. They should communicate on, they should be the right channels to communicate on cannabis regulations and cannabis news together with the Dutch government, so sourced from the Dutch government. Next to the Dutch government, it was mentioned the RIVM. The RIVM is National Institute for Public Health and the Environment, an independent agency for the Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport, was brought forward as the right body to inform on cannabis news and regulations. Then some respondents were saying next to Dutch government GGZ, which is the Dutch Association of Mental Health and Addiction Care, or for medical cannabis, this to come through hospital or pharmacists. Then in general, the coffee shops, they have information and leaflets in coffee shops to its users on cannabis and its regulation. Then the younger people I interviewed were mentioning more a role of social media, especially TikTok and Instagram for the target group 16 plus, to inform them about cannabis news and cannabis regulations. But in general, there's not much publicity on drugs cannabis topic in the Netherlands, simply because it's not allowed. And also not everyone is concerned, neither interested. For example, at schools, there is no information shared about cannabis, the product or its regulation and its risks. This is done at some schools, but then this is done at parents' meetings to the parents. And the schools are themselves to decide if they organize these sessions or not. Then you have in the Netherlands, you have the Bureau Medicinal Cannabis from the Dutch government. This Dutch government agency publishes on CBD information and regulations, and they supply official medicinal cannabis for medicinal and scientific purposes to hospitals, pharmacies, and vets.
Yeah, so in Spain, there's a lot of disparate opinions. Some feel that this should be dealt with via official government channels, such as the public television. On the other hand, like we saw in Netherlands, others think digital sources is better. You see this one young lady who thinks since it's taboo, it's difficult to find information that is not biased, but generally is using Google. Again, like in Netherlands, this is not taught in school. Like alcohol and tobacco can be dealt with usually around middle school level, but cannabis isn't included in that discussion. And then just the good old word of mouth is a favorite of many, but hopefully you can find a credible source. So this one young man says, a friend or close person with a lot of experience on the subject that really knows the reality of it.
In Thailand, the opinion on what channels it should come through is fairly disparate, but they are mostly aligned on sources. So they say the channel social media with information how to use it, especially suitable for Gen Z. And they also mentioned Line, which is like the WhatsApp in Southeast Asia for the older age groups. One respondent also said cannabis retailers. If I want to know how to use it, I may go to a seller who lives nearby my house. If I want to know about the regulation, I would go to another vendor who sells bigger volumes of cannabis to learn about regulation. Most agree that the source should be the Thai national government, a trustworthy or official authority, such as the Ministry of Health, a scholar or a doctor. Then also a respondent said the role of local authority, especially in the more remote rural areas where even somebody of the local authority would go to persons in person and explain about cannabis and the regulations. Then in the interviews we asked them, what is your perception about cannabis and appropriate regulations? So in the Netherlands, we have three camps. We have those that have a negative perception. They say, cannabis is a type of drugs. Why would you use that? Then you have those that have a positive and a negative perception. You see here two quotes. One says, the Dutch government should explain the drawbacks of possible addiction, but also explain its positive side. Cannabis to reduce pain, beneficial for Parkinson patients, mind-blowing, which can be seen as therapeutical. Then also weed and CBD can be good, but its usage needs to be monitored, and CBD prescribed, monitored by professional authorities such as GP or psychiatrist, mentioned a female age category 20 to 25.
Yeah, so in Spain, we also see the same three camps, but the negative is actually fairly small because it is characterized in general by a high degree of tolerance. Though one young lady interviewed did have kind of a disparaging attitude when she said, I think it's illegal to smoke a joint on the street, but people do it anyway. So definitely noted a hint of annoyance in the way she said that. On the other hand, there is a large camp of positive and negative. So this one woman says, I am in favor of legalizing possession and recreational use, as they have done in Germany. And these measures have turned sellers into legal companies. But a study would have to be done to allow consumption without disturbing children, pregnant women, and other possible victims. And I think that's kind of the general attitude that's most characteristic that we've seen.
Yeah, in Thailand, you also have three camps. Those that have a negative perception. Here you see a quote of a lady said, well, I'm against cannabis usage because it's so hard to control and it may cause social damage, which is hard to correct afterwards. Then you have the camp of positive and negative perception. Positive and negative of appropriate medical usage, but there should be education on how to use it and how much, and appropriate regulation on where it can be sold and how to purchase, and also a medical certificate would be needed. Another respondent said that we need regulations similar to tobacco and alcohol drinks, such as minimum age, specific spaces for usage, and we need effective enforcement by police to really implement the law. Then the camp that have a positive perception. In the Netherlands, some respondents said, they are positive about cannabis because it's calming. It's calming and it's more friendly and a better way to become calm than strong painkillers such as morphine, mentioned the lady I interviewed. Or a few also mentioned the positive about natural cannabis, such as you see here the quote, I mean here natural marijuana, not the manipulated varieties that are too strong, and it said that pesticides are used.
In Spain, there was two different directions on the positive spin. So one focused more on the tax generation. So this one young man said it should be treated like tobacco or alcohol, generating more taxes, and with the additional bonus of removing the stigma that cannabis smokers have in our society. And on the other hand, there's the focus on individual freedoms. So this one young man says it's something that is within the freedom of the individual. The law should be repealed completely because the law is based on creating more fear and only helps the dealer that sells it illegally.
In Thailand, those that have a positive perception, they emphasize the business opportunity that cannabis brings. Thailand suffered a lot during the COVID-19 pandemic, and because their main economy is tourism. So after the COVID-19 pandemic, June 2022, cannabis was decriminalized, and they see really a business opportunity in there to, especially to attract foreigners into Thailand. And then also they communicate the multiple purpose usage of cannabis. It can be used for food, for medical purpose, also for smoking. One lady we interviewed said, we can use cannabis in making soup. I saw that in my Facebook feed. Then for the online survey, first question we ask is, how do you feel about cannabis sales in your country? In this chart, you see the responses from the three markets, and you can see more than a third, 35%, in both Spain and Thailand are worried about its health risks. And a quarter, 24-25%, feels worried as it is not clear what is allowed or not. This is significantly lower in the Netherlands, as you can see in this chart. But also interesting is in the Netherlands, close to 1/3, 31%, answered to have no feelings as it doesn't interest or concern me or my surroundings. So then the second question we ask is, what do you think about cannabis regulations in your country? Respondents across all three markets are divided about cannabis regulations. Few comment it's all clear and nothing should be changed. We really see here sticking out, 41% of Thai consumers answered that cannabis regulations are unclear and its regulations should be stricter and also communicated and controlled better of what is allowed or not. Then the third question in our online survey we asked is, have you heard about cannabidiol CBD products? In this chart, you can see across the three markets, more than 2 out of 5, 41% of the respondents have never heard of CBD, with the highest in Thailand, 52%. Close to 2 out of 5, 38%, have heard of CBD, but no idea where you could buy these. I think these results are quite striking. If you look at the Netherlands, for example, cannabidiol CBD has been available in all major drugstores, like the Boots you have in the UK, and all these major drugstore chains since like a decade. But here many people answer they have never heard of CBD, or they have no idea where you could buy these. So they simply overlook this product when going to the drugstore. Then we asked them, what is your perception about what cannabidiol CBD products are for? This was a multiple answer question. And in this chart, you can see the different answers they selected. I just have taken out here the top 5 of what they have selected most. And you can see here sleep better, 48%, and relieve pain, muscle stiffness, 48%, were more frequently selected in the Netherlands than in Spain and in Thailand. Reduce anxiety and depression, 45%, was most mentioned of all in Thailand. Alleviate the impact of certain treatments, for example, chemotherapy, was with 44% most mentioned of all in Spain. Then the last question we asked in the online survey is, what is your attitude towards CBD being legal? Netherlands is more positive towards CBD being legal, 28% compared to Spain and Thailand. Spain has the largest share of those that are worried about health risks, 20%, and no opinions, feelings, as it does not interest, concern them, 19%. Thailand showed the largest share of that can understand that CBD can help with certain health problems, 29%, but they're also more worried about health risks and not clear of what is allowed or not, with 22%. Then, the study is quite extensive, but we have limited time here, so we just have selected some slides of the main topics we discussed. The last slide, I give the word to Brian, who will explain about the next steps, opportunities in market research.
Yeah, so the reasons we should really care about this as market researchers and strategists is that there are opportunities. Obviously, the opportunities are mostly currently in the CBD markets, and then also hemp is also a potential category. And the categories that are probably most interesting are what we saw before, the food and beverage. There's also tobacco and, well, tobacco companies that have vaping products have moved into the CBD market. And then cosmetics, we see it's used a lot in cosmetics. And then also potentially pet food. For the moment, the THC market, with such differing and unclear regulations, we're not going to see a lot of big players and big investment that will want to like contract formal market research. But hopefully that is a potential opportunity in the future. So on the left, we see the key aspects of cannabis markets, and on the right, the areas of market research that they're generating demand for. So the markets are obviously new and unknown, so they need market sizing and growth analysis. It's diverse and rapidly changing perception, so we need perception mapping and measurement, cultural branding and semiotic analysis. Evolving regulations generates demand for mapping these regulatory changes to the changing consumer needs and perceptions. Also advisory to NGOs and policymakers. New investments leads to opportunities for advisory to investors, entrepreneurs, and startups. The larger established players, those might be your current clients, and so maybe there's potential to get some new products or interests existing clients in new projects. Undiscovered consumer needs and uses, so that's innovation of new product development. Health and brand impact concerns, so there's potential for lots of CSR research. Undefined product types and categories, so product attribute mapping. There's a lot of interaction with sustainability, so you can do a whole life cycle analysis of how to do sustainable production, transportation, packaging, and then even recycling is applicable to some of the packaging, and then also the vaping products, disposable vape devices. And finally, the retail growth, both in digital and physical, leads to demand for traditional and digital e-commerce analysis.
Well, thank you all for attending our presentation today. You find our contact details here. If you want to know anything more about the study we conducted or qualitative research in the Netherlands, Belgium, Southeast Asia, or the Spanish-speaking markets, then do get in touch with us.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. That was amazing. It went a little bit over the 20 minutes, so we don't have a huge amount of time for any Q&A, but I found it fascinating. I do have one question. What would be the next market you would go to? Is there another on the horizon? Because this feels like a deck that needs to keep getting updated.
Well, I would probably look to the US and Canada for myself personally, because
okay. So watch
I go back there frequently.
Good stuff. All right. Again, thank you so much. I'm just going to finish up by plugging the QRCA International Conference, so the worldwide conference. Come to Berlin. Come to Berlin in May on the 14th to the 16th, and registration actually opens. I think it's going to be on Monday, just after Thanksgiving, because it doesn't feel like it's a good time to open registration that we're ready to roll. But come find out about that, and well, if I don't see you before then, see you in Berlin. And for one last final time, thanks, guys. That was really fascinating, and enjoy the rest of your days, evenings, mornings, wherever you are.
Yeah, I definitely.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ron.
Day or evening. Take care.